Now that we're in the mid game when it comes to Alliance War, let's take a few minutes to just talk about how you strategize, how do you approach the mid game war and how it's different from the early game. So in the early game, this is probably what you see a lot of: shield, minion, shield officer teams. And so it really comes down to just aggressiveness, participation. Who's going to participate? As long as you get all your members to attack as much as they can, it's really simple, right? You're going against little or no resistance. You see an easy team, you hit an easy team. But as you approach the mid game, you have to begin to change your approach. So as you get into the mid game, you're going to notice there's actual teams on defense. So you can't, again, you have to resist the urge to just jump right in and attack something. You want to make sure your attacks are efficient because you have a limited amount and you want to make sure they're successful. So what you're going to want to do is look at the names here of the different commanders. So we got Commander D here, we got Hopsky, and we have this picture here of Caitlyn showing just to remind us that we need to write these names down. You got to get a little piece of scratch paper and write down the 6 names that you're going to find sitting in the flight decks. So in flight deck 2 here, we have Odin, and he's paired with another shield officer. We have to resist the temptation to start attacking those shield minions because you want to make sure your attacks are efficient. Just defeating the minions at this point is not good enough. Now we're at flight deck number 3. We'll take note of Commander Tex, write his name down. Here's another shield officer here. But again, we're going to resist the temptation to start attacking. Which of those 3 flight decks should we go after? See, our mentality has to change. You can't look at it now as just, well, I can beat that team or I can beat that minion. You now want to figure out if I can destroy this room. Flight deck number 1, flight deck number 2, flight deck number 3 in its entirety. To help you do that, you want to go back a few pages to the Alliance War screen, the original Alliance War screen, and you click participation down there in the lower left-hand corner. You see we have it circled. You click participation. In the upper left-hand corner of the participation screen is where we are right now. It says all players. If you hit that button, it will show you your alliance, and then it will show you the opposing alliance. So we're going to click that all players until it shows us our opposing alliance. As you can see in the upper left-hand corner, it says opponents. We then want to scroll all the way down to the bottom, making sure that it is a full 24-person alliance. If it's less than that, then you know for sure you have multiple shield minion rooms. You can use that to your advantage. You can tell your weaker members, hey, we have 5 rooms that are not defended. You need to be on a lookout. If you see any that are paired up, you don't need me to tell you. You go ahead and attack those rooms. In addition, you want to now take that list of names, right? You might have 6 names, 2 people from each flight deck, and you're going to look for them. You're going to look for them here in this opponent's list, and you're going to click on them with the intent of you want to know what their total collection power is, their TCP. So you're going to take that name, you're going to find that TCP, and you need to make a little note about how much it was, right? You don't have to write the whole thing. If it's about 7 million, 10 million, 20 million, that's what you want to write down, because you want to know, is this something that the alliance that you're in, can the people in this alliance, the average people, handle fighting against an opponent of that strength? Although total collection power is not the end all be all, it'll help you know how much power, how much firepower this opponent has, right? They probably have the majority of their power on offense, and then what will be left over on defense. So look at your own collection power. Are you at, right? I'm about 8 million. I know what teams I have. I know how many teams I have. So generally speaking, if you're stronger than that, you have stronger teams and or more teams. And if you have less than that, the reverse is probably also true. This is important. Here's why. So we're taking another look back at flight deck number 3. And we have Commander Tex. So it doesn't matter what the 4 teams you see showing here. That makes no difference. You want to know, well, how strong is Commander Tex, right? If he's 2 million TCP, right? The overwhelming majority of his power is showing right here in these 4 teams, right? Now you can put that information together. He's only 2 million TCP, almost all of his power. These are probably the strongest 4 teams that he has. So you should be able to beat him. And then you should also be able to beat the minion team next to him, so you can get all the points for beating that entire room, not just beating individual enemies, not just clearing out one side. You want to make sure that you're able to clear the room in its entirety. Now, what if the opposite is true? What if you looked at Commander Tex and he has 20 million collection power? Well, then again, these teams that you're looking at are nothing compared to what he has probably down the line. Do you have teams that are strong enough to fight against those, right? 20 million, that's an end game account right now, right? He probably has some gear tier 16. You might have some gear tier 17. Do you have comparable firepower to deal with that? If not, even though these weak teams are showing, it's a waste of time to try to attack him. If you can't find with the other 2 flight decks an easier opponent, then yes, now you would decide to go ahead and go after one of those minions, the minion teams, to drill down to the next room, and you start the process over. In this particular case, Commander Tex was closer to the 2 million next to shield officers, so we marked him who went after those rooms. So people might say, well, Gideon, why wouldn't I just attack those minions? They're easy. Well, again, we have to change our mindset. We have to get it. That's the early game version. It's whack-a-mole. You just see something, you hit it. Now it's more important to score points. So you see, knockout rewards are 36. I get 36 points for knocking out an enemy. However, as you can see in the circle in the upper left-hand corner, if I can clear Flight Deck 3 in its entirety, that means emptying out the shield teams, emptying out Commander there, the Alliance will get 10,000 points, right? So I didn't do my math right, the 720, ignore that. I didn't do my math right. So if I was to knock out all the people in just one of the rooms, that's 1,800 points with the scoring that we're at. So if we were to do that twice, right, that's 36,000 points. That's not, right, that's a third of what you could possibly get, or not possibly, what you're supposed to be trying to get. 10,000 points, in addition to all the other ones for knocking the individuals out. That's what you want. So we got to get away from just taking pot shots at weak teams whenever you see them. You want to make sure that you're marshaling your forces, that you're focused, that you can clear a room in its entirety. You only have so many attacks, so you want to make them count. So this is what happens if you do it wrong. So we have Sully here. Sully's TCP is 28 million. That is definitely closer to an end game account. And the first clue is the first team in rule number 1 is Gamma. Look at all those red stars. And this guy's working on Apocalypse. He might have Apocalypse, right? He has gear tier 17 Gamma on defense. Does my Alliance have anything that can fight against that? No, not at all. There's nobody that can clear that in my Alliance. So since that's the case, there's no reason to attack this room. It's wasted effort at this point. Maybe if we were getting down to the wire, we need a couple points, you can pick some of the easy teams, but that's not the case. See, we can't get that 10,000 points. We can't clear the room. So number 2 there next to Sully's name, you see I got the little number 2 indicator. There's teams missing, right? Somebody attacked the room, probably because there were easy teams shown. But again, it's wasted effort. We won't be able to clear the room in its entirety. And his associate next to him, VDOT, is just as strong. Just as strong. So if by some miracle we got through this one, we would have had to do it again to get the points. So this is one of those rooms that's not conducive. This is not what you want. You want to look for something more like we saw earlier. Or if you're approaching the end game, then you're going to look at this different. You're not going to care. You're going to be more concerned about the counters and go ahead and knock it out. But in the mid game, if you're not able to clear the teams, there's no reason for you to attack the room. So hopefully the information helps. We want your Alliance Wars to feel good. You want to have that good victory, high-fiving your squad when it's over, getting those wins, and you can do it. You're just moving on to the next level. Time to strategize a little bit more and keep moving forward until you can get into the end game. Well, hopefully you're taking care of yourself and your family. Be cool, get plenty of exercise, go outside and touch some grass. Peace.